Ben Brown delivers in a big way as the Cubs get a big win.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Matt Cozy, and you are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Later in the show, we enter crossover mode as Todd Welter of Locked On White Sox joins me. Really nice time with Todd. I've been wanting to connect with him for a while. He joined the network a couple years ago, and was exciting to preview the Crosstown series as both teams are playing well this season. Some more on that later. We start with the Cubs salvaging the series with the Braves with a 2-0 win on Thursday night. This might be one of the more significant wins of the season. I think it's one of their biggest wins of the year, admittedly, because of the way it's been going lately. But I'm going to try to lay out the case for why it was one of the bigger wins of the year. Not necessarily for the experience of the game, the quality of the game was so high, but for the situation that they've been in. They entered Thursday on a 4-game losing streak with 3 runs on 12 hits in those 4 games. 4 games, they scored 3 runs, they got 12 hits, they lost all 4, which makes sense. And they already dropped the series to the best team currently in baseball. They're going up against one of the best pitchers in baseball in Chris Sale, and they won 2-0. They were better offensively Thursday night. They played great defense. Their bullpen was tremendous, but it's really difficult not to start with Ben Brown. And Craig Counsell has labeled the injuries that this team has faced as an opportunity for someone else. And Ben Brown is flourishing with his opportunity right now. This was Brown's second outing since joining the rotation, and he delivered 4 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts on 65 pitches. This was likely a little more than they would have liked, would be my guess. He threw about 45 pitches last Friday, and they said he only did that because of how dominant he was. He was able to get through 4 innings. Well, he gets through 4 scoreless again here. He does give up 1 hit this time. Ho-hum. He gave up none last time. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, lowers his ERA to 1.60. Nicely done, sir. Ben Brown, ladies and gentlemen, stepped up in a major way. And it's not just the 2 rotation appearances. He had been cruising in his bullpen role as well after a little bit of a shaky start to the season. So, the way that the game opened, I had started to think a little bit differently about the game. The Cubs had runners on first and third, 1 out in the top of the first. They didn't score. And I can follow up on that in a minute or two. But Ben Brown, you blink, and the Braves get sent back to the dugout in order. And so it was clear from the outset that Brown had it again. And could this be a game where somehow they take advantage of that? If he was going to be that good, what is the bullpen path to victory? Well, we figured that out as the game went on. And they did just enough offensively to win. And so this is a fun one. This is a big one. This stops the losing skid. It's important. It's important. If it's not big or significant, it's important for the week that it's been. and the way it has been going offensively. And for the way it's been going offensively, did you think they were going to win a game 2-0? Not really, right? I didn't. Milner pitched the 5th and the 6th. Clutch outing for him. Phil Maton bounced back. He pitched the 7th. For him to do that is notable, right? He crashes out on Wednesday and then he bounces back. Okay, that's the beauty of the game, right? There's a game tomorrow and he took advantage. Jacob Webb was nice in the 8th. He had one base runner. Daniel Palencia had a base runner as well, but got out of it. He was sharp in the 9th. Good to see from him. Ian Happ hit a solo home run in the 8th. Matt Shaw brought home the first run on a grounder for a fielder's choice RBI with runners on first and third and nobody out in the 6th. That's how the Cubs scored their runs. In the top of the first, they did have first and third, one out. Seiya struck out. Shaw struck out. That didn't come back to haunt them. So that's fortunate. And where I thought maybe they would break through against Sale was that very next inning in the top of the 2nd. They get 2 quick outs, and then Amaya and Pete go back-to-back singles, and all of a sudden you have 4 hits in 2 innings against Sale after getting 12 hits only the last 4 games. And so that was a good sign, and Horner flied out to end that second frame, but I think those were encouraging earlier signs. And for a game that was scoreless until the top of the 6th, it's nice to reflect on that and go back to it because maybe that was some foreshadowing of good things to come. And what a good thing that did happen Thursday night in the ATL with Brent Brown delivering. Again, this was a rare Thursday night game for the Cubs, who play only 6 Thursday night games all season long. So there's 5 to go. A couple weeks from now, they have a later start. Well, it's an early start for a night game, but they have a night game against the Pirates in Pittsburgh at PNC. Cubs are now 28-16 on the season, and next up is the resurgent White Sox on the south side to close out this 9-game road trip. Can the Cubs continue after a nice win on Thursday? Todd Welter from Locked On White Sox joins me next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. All you need in one place during the playoffs is on FanDuel. You can check stats, trends, matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Right now, the Thunder are cruising. They're minus 180 to win the NBA championship right now. Spurs next, followed by the Knicks. Is this the year the Knicks exit the Eastern Conference and make the finals either with the Thunder or the Spurs? Or the T-Wolves, they're still alive technically. But a lot of good NBA action right now, and you should use FanDuel to make this an even better experience. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. How does it help you? It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. Plus, it automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. At the end of the day, it just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. We are now live on the Locked On Cubs and Locked On White Sox audio and YouTube feeds alongside Todd Welter. I'm Matt Cozy. Todd, I'm excited to do this 2-segment crossover with you. The White Sox entered Thursday in second place in the AL Central, only a game and a half back of the Guardians, and currently as the second wild card team. They're 21-21 overall, 15-8 since April 17th. This after some seasons that were really turbulent. How has this resurgence happened? Because this is a really cool story.
Yeah, I appreciate you being respectful by using turbulent, because I would say it was historically awful. I mean, 2024, they lose a record 121 games. And that's where it actually, I think, starts on the bounce back, because Chris Getz, the general manager, was able to leverage that to finally get owner Jerry Reinsdorf to modernize the front office. I mean, the White Sox were so far behind the times that they absolutely needed to reset just how they were doing business. They were still operating like it was 2005. So, Getz has expanded the front office. They've updated the analytics department. They've actually invested in like development technology, like the strategic pitching machine, that type of stuff. Like the White Sox didn't even have that stuff. Then they went outside. While Chris Getz was obviously not a very popular hire when he got promoted in 2023, he went out and stopped making the White Sox less insular. He went out and got some more better supporting cast in the front office, getting, Chris Rodriguez from Tampa Bay, Josh Barfield from Arizona, Gene Watson, longtime executive, to help maybe make those minor moves. And they've just absolutely overhauled everything. And then what has really energized them is just, tapping into a young core. And then this year, they've actually made some minor moves that have worked out. So that's really what's worked out. And then what put them over what's got them even moving forward, outwitting the market and actually signing Munetaka Murakami. And that was impressive because they focused on what he could do and not what everybody else focused on was what he can't do.
Yeah, and I wonder how the Cubs will match up with Murakami this weekend, especially out of the bullpen. Cubs, meanwhile, entered Thursday 27-16 following 2 10-game win streaks, but have been really struggling offensively over the last couple of weeks. And when we were exchanging notes before we recorded today, you mentioned the schedule, and MLB debuts this new balanced schedule a few years ago where you play every team, and 14 of the 15 teams in the opposite league, you play just once for 3 games. The Cubs and Sox have this geographic rivalry thing where they've actually squeezed in the extra 4th game as 2-game series the last couple of years. But this year, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it is 6 because the NL Central plays the AL Central, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And as we were exchanging our notes, like I don't want to alienate my White Sox listeners here, but I do believe the Cubs are a legit World Series contender. And wow, I think they've got a chance to win the Central, but it's going to have to happen in the margins if the Central remains that tough. And yeah, you're playing the White Sox 6, the Brewers play the Twins, 6, Guardians play the Reds. Those are the things that are going to make a difference, because you're going to have those extra matchups. So for the Cubs, I think this is a big series for them to kind of make sure that they can actually win the NL Central. And, I think, I don't think the Pirates and the Cardinals are going to be able to keep up this pace, but I wouldn't shock me if the Reds and the Brewers are still in the race towards the end. And these are games that are going to matter for the Cubs.
Yeah, for me, looking at the landscape of the entire American League, I think the Cubs need to take advantage of a AL that's a little bit mediocre And they've already played the Rays, who are good. They've already played the Guardians, who might be good. They've already played the Rangers, who might be good. And so besides the Yankees and Mariners, Todd, I do see these 6 games as an opportunity to stack wins against the White Sox, but really it's otherwise as well. The way the AL is really playing out and the log jam in the NL, as you say, especially in the Central. And we'll get to the pitching matchups a little bit here. But for the White Sox, this is a opportunity they've showed up, but man, what an opportunity to really show up against an upper echelon team.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the rivalry completely out and you just put this in a vacuum, this is a huge series for the White Sox too, because this is a chance to make a statement. And then when you bring the rivalry back into play, the Cubs have been dominating the White Sox, recently in this rivalry. And just like the Royals, what they've done to the Royals in this series and this season has shown that, hey, things have changed. You just can't beat us up and, use us to, like how the Royals, for example, we were talking about no schedule. The Royals literally used those 13 games in 2024 to get to the playoffs because that was one of the deciding factors. So the White Sox this year have shown that, hey, you can't beat us up anymore. So that's why I'm excited. I want to see, can the White Sox reach a benchmark? If they don't, well, they're still kind of rebuilding and rejuvenating and that type of stuff. So that's why, to me, it's such a huge series in so many ways that goes beyond just, hey, this is a crosstown rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rivalry has a chance to pick up because the White Sox are doing well too. It's been 5 years since both teams were good. In 21, the Cubs started the rebuild. The White Sox were great. In 22, both teams were bad, and so on. I think this is a cool chance for both teams to play into the buzz. I do think on paper the Cubs probably like their matchups. 3 games this weekend, 640, 610, 110. Do want to get to a TV note later in the show. But Cabrera, Burke, Friday, Tyone Martin, Saturday, Ray Fetty, Sunday. Edward Cabrera for the Cubs has been up and down and maybe even a little bit down more than up. We'll see what Tyone does, veteran presence Saturday, and then Colin Ray will need a little bit of a bounce back Sunday after earlier this week against the Braves. Sandwiched in between Burke and Fetty, Todd, is Davis Martin, who has been one of the best pitchers in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the second best ERA in the American League. And this is a guy who was, more projecting to be a back end of the rotation starter. Like, for example, if he was on the Cubs, I think he would be, a very good number 4, number 5 starter. And what he's done this year, though, is he has kicked it up a level to where he's pitching like an ace, kind of a spin stuff ace, although he can get it up to 95, but mostly he's in that 93 range with his fastball. But he's developed a kick change, and he's just been mastering it so much that he's been darn near unhittable and darn near, unable. You can't really score many runs. I mean, he's outpitched Jose Soriano now twice, and Jose Soriano, we don't know if he's going to win the Cy Young, he was trending to be, but he was pitching darn hot, and Davis Martin beat him twice and outshined him. So that's the one where I definitely think the White Sox have the best chance of taking a game is in that series. And then as you're talking about in the pitching matchups, that Ray Fetty, that's going to be an interesting one because can Fetty get through the lineup of second or third time? He's been really struggling that second or third time through the lineup.
And I know the White Sox pitching has been better, but it's the offense that really intrigues me and how the Cubs attack that from a pitching perspective. We continue to dig into this series next. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, and location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Cubs and Locked On White Sox by saying you heard about Indeed on our shows. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, the crossover continues, and will the crosstown rivalry continue this weekend? We know it is, literally speaking, but both teams playing really, really well, and the Cubs entered Thursday on a 4-game losing streak, and those four, Todd, batting 100 with 3 total runs scored. Meanwhile, when I checked the White Sox scores the last couple of weeks, and again, they've been 15-8 since April 17th. So we're almost a month into this run. Wow. The Sox have this big four right now: Antonacci, Murakami, Vargas, Montgomery, and they usually hit in that order, by the way. Good on Will Venable. How have you viewed these four? Because they've been really impressive.
Yeah, to me, I can't, get excited enough. Honestly, I think that is kind of the 1 through 4 that is the future for the White Sox. They still have some hurdles to clear and some benchmarks, to reach. Miguel Vargas has got to get better at hitting right-handed hitting. He's done, he's had some good hits recently against the Royals, right-handed pitching, but he still has to get better against righties. Murakami obviously has just been an absolute star, and he's been blasting home runs. Colson Montgomery, I talked about it on my show on Wednesday, on yesterday, that he's had such a winning impact on this team. And that's another way, how to have things turned around. Well, the White Sox had 28 wins on July 3rd of 2025, and since he's debuted, they won 54 games on July 4th. So he's had just such a major impact. And then Sam Antonacci, you're going to love the way he plays, even if you're a Cubs fan. I mean, this guy plays the game hard. And then I'd add a fifth name, Chase Mydroff. He's also been that kind of scrappy, bat to ball guy. He's been hitting fifth, although against lefties, he has been hitting leadoff because they've chosen not to play Antonacci against lefties. So, that's just, you've got their 1 through 5 core. And then Kyle Teal, hopefully he comes back soon. And, their top prospect, Braden Montgomery, probably will get called up in June. So that's why things are just very, very exciting right now on the South side.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And for the Cubs, you're facing 3 right-handed starting pitchers. Moises Ballesteros has been scuffling despite hitting the ball hard. The results haven't been there. I wonder what Craig Counsell does with his lineup to open all 3 games. Does Ballesteros start? Does Conforto start? Do they both sneak in there and someone gets a day off their feet, or just a complete day off? And I feel like I really emphasize the opening games of series, Todd, and with Davis Martin looming on Saturday, and respect for him and the resurgence of the Sox, really, I think Friday is important for the Cubs, and then in theory it would be there'd be a rubber game Sunday. What do you think about the flow of the series, if at all?
Yeah, I agree that, if that's a game that the Cubs need to get, they need to get Friday, because Sean Burke has just been so inconsistent on the mound.
Okay.
When his knuckle curve is working, he is been almost unhittable too. He was on a good hot streak, but then he completely got just absolutely demolished on last Friday, gave up 6 runs against the Mariners, and it was looking again like the inconsistent Sean Burke with his command. So for him, it's a huge start. And, he's got to show that he can bounce back, but that is definitely a starter that potentially could give the Cubs a chance to pick up a victory if he falls behind in counts like he did against the Mariners. And then again, we're talking on Sunday, it's probably a toss-up. Colin Ray, I know he's always been old reliable, but he can be shaky, and same with Eric Fetty. Same type of thing where you're looking at your more back end of the rotation guys.
Cubs, we know, are on Marquee. Sox on CHSN. CHSN is simulcasting all 3 games on free over-the-air television. The return of baseball in Chicago on WCIU, Channel 26 to you. I remember that the Cubs and Sox spilling over to that station when there was conflicts on the other networks they had deals with. So pretty cool for those in the Chicagoland area if you want to take advantage of that, or you need to, or just for nostalgic purposes. I do have some trivia in front of me. Before I get to that, I do have really fond memories of this series, especially in the 2000s summertime. And no, not just the Michael Barrett AJ thing. Both of these teams were good in the late 2000s, like 07, 08, if I remember right. The Sox were, right?
Yeah, well, and I remember
Yeah, what do you
2003.
remember?
I turned 21, and my sister got me tickets to Cubs Sox at Wrigley, and I remember sitting with my dad. We were both Sox fans, sitting down there, and I think it was Matt Clement. The White Sox roughed him up for 7 runs. Cubs come back, score 6. It was such a tight race. I remember that 2003 season very vividly. It's because when I really started, right now, I have no problem with the Cubs. I like the rivalry type of stuff. I think after you get the World Series out of the way, the rivalry is kind of taking a different turn. But I remember in 2003, I was at Marquette University. A lot of my friends were Cubs fans, and all I had to hear about was how great the Cubs were. And I was like, the White Sox won that. They won the Crosstown Classic. And if the White Sox were in the NL Central, they would have made the playoffs too. And I just remember I got so much grief for that. I remember just being so happy when the Marlins came back and the Bartman type of thing, that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, in the 2000s, that was when it was a true heated rivalry, because I think part of it is the White Sox get to the World Series and win it. Cubs are still trying. You got them; they're really good teams. That type of stuff.
They both had good players.
Yeah, and you had Ozzie Guillen fanning the flames. Calling the rats at Wrigley like the size of raccoons and type of stuff.
That's
I mean, you had personalities, and then I think it kind of just died really when the White Sox descended into mediocrity, and then the Cubs win the World Series, because it's like, okay, well, we both have championships within 11 years of each other. There's no more streak to compete for. There's no more, hey, we got to get to the World Series first. I think now it's just the race of who can get to the next World Series, and I think the Cubs are just a little bit further along than the White Sox are.
Well, I have to admit, I've liked looking at what the White Sox are doing, and my disdain for the Brewers and the Reds and the Pirates and the Cardinals only continues or grows, especially in case of the first team I mentioned. And I do wonder if that's been a shift for both fan bases, because I feel like in the 2000s there was hate there for sure.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, it was like, who can get to that World Series? And then White Sox fans were like, well, we got to the World Series, and I remember Cubs fans just being so upset and and I think the other thing that's changed too is you had a lot of, from the White Sox looking at the Cubs, you had a lot of players that you could really hate. Sammy Sosa, even though the White Sox traded him away. Derek Lee, who always just seemed to be up every time you turned on a game. There was Derek Lee hitting. Yeah. I don't know why. He was there. Like, you had guys that you could really hate. And then, one of the things that the Cubs did during that World Series run, outside of Addison Russell and Aroldis Chapman, was they had decent human beings on that team. I never forget, it was a Brewers game. I have a connection to Mike Moustakas. We got to go down to the field level, and my one nephew is a huge Cubs fan. My other nephew, huge baseball fan, and he had just lost his mom. And, Anthony Rizzo, after losing to the Cubs, he could have just completely blew past my nephews, stops, takes the time to sign autographs, talks to them, David Bodie. It was just okay, I can't really hate these guys. They're actually decent human beings.
Yeah, and I feel like both teams have that now too, with really likable players, good Q scores. 8, this is a lot. 8 players, 4 position players, 4 pitchers have played for both teams. just since the start of 2024. Do you want to take a shot at any of these? Otherwise, I'll reveal them.
Oh, let me see if I
It's
can
a
do
lot.
it. Well, 2024, if we can go back, because like Anthony Kay, who's pitching against the Royals, was on there for the White Sox on there. Oh, geez. Oh, man. Well, they claim Travis Jankowski won't count, but they claimed him off of waivers from spring training.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a good.
It's a good one, right? Let me reveal them. And then
Gage Workman, Tater.
Yes, Workman. Really, all of these, I think. Well, no, yeah, 24, 25, and then this year. So Nicky Lopez, Mike Talkman, you already said Gage Workman, and then Reese McGuire, who the White Sox recently sent away, right?
Yep.
And then 4 pitchers: Aaron Savale, Chris Flexen, Brad Keller was a White Sox in 24. Then Michael Soroka. Todd, thank you so much for doing this.
And no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Excited to be back Monday recapping this series. For Todd Welter, I'm Matt Cozy, and this has been a Locked On Cubs and Locked On White Sox crossover, if I could speak.